Altcoins have awoken, but this is just the start of it. This is the others chart and this is the total 3 chart which represent the altcoins, and right now both of them are on the verge of breaking out from these incredibly bullish patterns, a move that will ignite the entire crypto market. But just next week we have an FOMC meeting, a potentially sell the news event according to many. I'm going to break it down in this video exactly what I think is going to happen and what I'm doing to prepare. Am I taking profits right now, or am I just going to continue to hold? I'm also going to talk about this incredibly important gold versus crypto chart that tells us something about this bull market and why it might extend into early 2026, unlike what I originally thought. I'm going to break it all down for you in this video, so do me a favor, hit the like button, and let's find out what's going on in the markets. Now guys, before we dive across and take a look at my crypto portfolio to find out about any changes and things that I've been making, as well as those incredibly important charts that tell us the bigger picture story right now, just a quick disclaimer. Nothing I say in this video is financial advice. Everything I say is for entertainment purposes only. If you wish to invest in crypto, you should really understand that it's pretty risky and you can lose money. So don't risk money that you can't afford to lose. Always do your own research. And by the way, just down below are some links for various exchanges that I personally use and work with, but they are affiliate links. Now that we got that out of the way, let's get on with it. Now guys, if you're anything like me, you've been opening up your crypto portfolio today and having a look at the last week behind us and thinking that, yeah, times seem to be pretty good. Aether up 84%, WorldCoin up 86%, Medicaid 30%, MLC 22%. And if you are subscribed to the House of Crypto, there's a good chance that you're holding many of these coins as well. So congratulations if you've been making some gains over the last week or two. But I know you, very much like me, are a little bit cautious because over the last few years, every single time we've had something nice, it seems to get taken away from us by the market makers, some sort of scary news or something like that. So the question in many of our minds is, next week going to do the same to us, and how should we prepare for that? Well, we will be talking about that in just a moment. But before we do, let's find out why everyone's so pumped. Well, because Bitcoin has been kind of going up a bit, but actually it's not really because of that, because many of you, I doubt, are even holding any Bitcoin. I personally am not. And the reason I'm not is because the Bitcoin dominance is sat like here right now, and it's ready for something like this to play out, which will be basically what an altcoin season looks like. And if you've looked across to blockchaincenter.net, you can see that right now, apparently it's officially altcoin season. Now obviously we saw this happen before the end of 2024, but that was short-lived. So let's break down in more detail as to whether or not we're going to be more sustained in these particular moves. Well, ultimately everyone's pretty pumped because Ethereum is now sitting up near all-time high, and also Solana has been seeing some serious upside. Now I was saying to you just over the last few weeks that Ethereum had pretty much hit its point of kind of no return, where we're basically finishing off this Wyckoff accumulation point, basically bouncing around in this area before seeing significant continuation here, a move that will push on a lot more confidence across the market. And I'll talk about why the FOMC stuff is actually really bullish for the altcoins, maybe not so much for Bitcoin though. Now Solana is seeing the growth here because it's basically bouncing against Ethereum. Solana represents large cap altcoins, and we've seen a lot of large cap altcoins all of a sudden waking up. Remember about all those times we talked about the path to altcoin season, starting with a bull market for Bitcoin, then followed by Ethereum, and then now Solana and other large cap altcoins like WorldCoin, Aether, Sui's, etc. Now I know that many of those large caps haven't necessarily woken up yet, but they will. The total 3 chart is now also printing an incredibly exciting pattern. You can see that this is basically the area of resistance, the last point of no return. Once we break beyond this green box, it's all over for the bears. It's already pretty much over for the bears because they've missed out on many percent gains over the last few weeks. And I appreciate it's been difficult, but if you've had the faith, you've been educating yourself in the space, you've probably been holding on through this, and now you are about to be greatly rewarded, in my opinion. Let me know down below if you sold out or whether you've just held on for dear life and now you're starting to reap the rewards. Now, eventually this is going to break out. Does it get rejected here and go for another little bounce like this? Potentially. Now, this is where we need to talk about the very key thing that is coming up next week, because this chart right now is on the verge of a break that will take it to new highs. If you go back in the past, this is what Bitcoin did when it broke beyond that level. You can see that it hits into the level for the first time, it breaks under the previous all-time high, and then eventually it just rockets up. Now you will notice that as it returns into this all-time high level, it kind of bounces around a little bit here. But as soon as that bouncing around is done, it goes on a massive run like this. Yes, it's followed by a bit of a retest, but then it goes on a run again. We are about to see that happen for total 3. But the question, as we are asking right now, is does this happen first or does this happen first? And then behind that, you have the others, which represents kind of the mid-cap range of altcoins. Yeah, you could say large caps as well, but it doesn't really include the XRPs, Cardanos, Solanas, Ethereums of this world that have massive market caps, okay? But it's still looking pretty damn bullish, and this ultimately is a ascending triangle. It already has pretty much started to break out of the ascending triangle in the same way that the total 3 has also been doing, but it's just running a little bit further ahead. Now, whenever that kind of total 3 chart breaks, the others chart will likely start to push up to here, and once this goes into discovery mode, euphoria is going to be insane. People are not going to be able to control themselves. Everyone's going to be AP into the market everywhere. It's going to be on the mainstream media everywhere about how much money people are making in crypto. Lo and behold, that's when we want to start to be a little bit more cautious. But as we are looking right now, we are still far behind getting up towards that zone for the others chart. Now, since we have that path to altcoin season that is effectively the blueprint for what happens to Bitcoin, then happens to Ethereum, then happens to the altcoins. I mean, look at it. Bitcoin in the last bull market went up to around this level, 69k. It then runs up to the same level. It bounces around for a long time, and then eventually it breaks through. You can see on the second time it bounces through, it barely hangs around this zone for more than about a week. Now, if we look to phase 2 of the path to altcoin season, which is, as we know, Ethereum, and that's why we've seen Ethereum versus Bitcoin rallying very strongly since back on the 14th of April, then we can see, according to this blueprint, that we are basically in that final kind of zone where we could be spending a week or two here, or maybe just a 24-hour period, or maybe just going straight through, okay? And you will see as well, if you go to kind of other altcoins, they're now starting to catch up with that. So they're basically at that point of no return that Bitcoin was at. Why do I keep saying this? I keep saying this for one very good reason. There were many people around here who were like, I'm not really sure whether it was a good idea to be holding Bitcoin and the altcoins right now. All of a sudden, you have a major news event, which was what? It was the US elections. Now, did the US election create a sell the news event or a buy the news event? Now, many of you will argue that he created a buy the news event because Donald Trump won the election and he was supposed to be a pro-crypto government, unlike Kamala Harris, the Democrats, who were negative towards crypto. We already know that because we saw in the past the SEC, Gary Gensler and all those trying to suppress crypto growth. Ever since that's kind of gone out of the way, we've seen crypto starting to expand. And this time, I feel that we are in a very, very similar situation going into this news event. While we kind of feel like there's going to be rate cuts, we don't really know how big those rate cuts are. And guess what? Before Donald Trump won the election, unless you were a hardened Democrat, probably you started to realize that Kamala Harris was not going to win that election, because in the weeks and things that started to lead up to that event, she started to make errors in various conversations she was having, interviews, etc. And during those periods of time, you can go and plot them on the chart, you actually saw Bitcoin and altcoins having a push. Whenever she started to look a little bit like she was losing ground, guess what? Crypto started to advance. And we are seeing that right now happen because we are moving towards rate cuts. We had CPI data that provided the Fed with another reason to cut rates. We had job openings lower than normal, another reason to cut rates. We had all these different reasons stacking up. We've even had Jerome Powell indicating just a few weeks ago that rate cuts were more than likely going to happen. And since we are hanging around in this zone right now, wondering if or not we're going to get a sell the news event, but ultimately we are going to go towards interest rate cuts, which effectively are bullish for the markets no matter what, because guess what? When you bring down interest rates, you open the doors for billions, if not trillions of dollars to enter into risk assets. Why? Because all of the banks' institutions are massively overweight in bonds, treasuries, etc. As soon as interest rates come down, they are going to be forced to go down the risk curve. The reason is they're borrowing money at a certain percentage. Maybe it's 2%, 3%, whatever. They are earning 4%, 4.5% on interest rates. If the interest rates suddenly come down, they will suddenly be running at a loss. What do? They have to go into stocks. They have to go into crypto. It is an automatic surge in the market that is potentially coming. So my argument here is, so what if you get a sell the news event? Really, you don't know whether or not you're going to get one or the other. And here's what many people down below will be like, oh, so he doesn't know if it's going to go up or down. Correct, and neither does anybody else in the next week or two. But there is simply only one final result that comes from a rate cut, and it is this. Okay, it is this. And this was Bitcoin, fine, going up however much. It went up 52%, which near enough represents like $1 trillion. It's a lot of money. I'm not sure exactly how much. Okay, and then we get the other correction. If you have the others chart going up by 50%, 100%, or going up towards $1 trillion, everything will go absolutely bonkers. Okay, for Bitcoin to add that much money, yeah, things are good. Okay, but when the altcoins start to add that much money, and they will, because the Bitcoin dominance is on the way down and will continue to fall, maybe it has a little bit of ups and down. Now, here's my thoughts and what I'm personally doing. Should I be taking profits running into this event? I'm not really overly sure because I don't want to miss out on that potential massive leg up. I feel like the most devastating move for the majority of retail investors right now is just straight up, because there's a lot of people who've been sidelined, a lot of people who are still bearish, they're not really sure. I feel the most unexpected, the most devastating move for many people, not you guys because you've been subscribed to this channel and you know what's been going on, but for many people is that the market just rips straight through. If that happens, guess what? It's going to be incredibly painful if you've sold to try and get back in. If, however, we do get a sell the news event, guess what? Bitcoin probably comes back down to 100k or so. It drops like 7 or 8%. And yeah, the altcoins might take a little bit of a hit, but only in the very short term. And then it will continue towards the upside. So in my opinion, there's two options here. And the only thing that I can really do is to prepare for both. If the market goes straight up, I want to be holding altcoins, correct? If the market comes down and then goes up, then I'm still happy to hold altcoins because I still get the altcoin season. Okay, it just takes a little bit longer to get here. And if I know it's still coming, because interest rate cuts are obviously bullish for crypto, then it doesn't matter. Okay, I just have to have the faith that the crypto market is going to continue higher no matter what happens in that short term. As long as I'm not leveraged or over leveraged going into that news event, which I probably wouldn't be if I was you, then you're good to go, because the result's the same. Why are you trying to speculate when that happens in the incredibly short term where no expert around the world can really tell you? Okay, Binance, whoever else, probably got the playbook. They already know what they're going to do. They're going to shake out as many people as they want if they wish to. So in my opinion, there's only one thing to do. Just hold through that event. Okay, we get the sell the news event. Happy days, I can load up. If I don't get a sell the news event, happy days. I'm a lot richer than I was yesterday. But ultimately, we're in a bull market. Things are good. Now, the thing that I want to talk about that is actually far more exciting and interesting on whether or not we should be speculating on what happens in the next week or so is this. It is gold versus crypto and how gold really affects crypto, or what it's kind of representing in the market. Now, I already talked about the macro environment and how money flows in and out of markets on risk. Crypto represents risk assets, or at least all of crypto used to represent the riskiest end of assets. When the market is in kind of tightening phases, you want to be into the less risk assets if you are an institution or a bank, because you don't really know where the economy is going. You want to hold stuff which has basically an easy rate of return. That's what they've been doing with high interest rates. And during those periods of time, there are indicators that tell you which place you should be in the market. Effectively, what happens is people move from the higher risk assets to low risk assets, etc. And a few indicators come in that show us this happening. Gold has always traditionally been a hedge against risk. Whenever the market's looking a little bit shaky, inflation and whatever's happening, you suddenly start to go towards gold. Why? Because it holds its value. In fact, it starts to increase in value as everything around it loses value. And as you can see, XAU USD, which is the gold chart on the weekly, goes through various bull markets and bear markets, but these do not necessarily coincide completely with crypto until now, where they've started to coincide with one particular asset, and that is Bitcoin, which is interestingly started to completely marry itself to the gold trend. Now, Bitcoin's always been referred to as like gold 2.0, but up until more recently, it was far too volatile to be able to hold that title. Although now it's become a much bigger asset, it's clearly here to stay. You started to see institutions, BlackRock and JP Morgan and whoever else starting to adopt it. It's clearly starting to play the role of a gold 2.0. Now, looking to the last bear market for gold and then the last bull market for crypto, something very important happens. Bull market for gold finishes around the 3rd of August 2020. Now, if you look at Bitcoin on the 3rd of August 2020, it's basically at around $9,000. And very quickly until December, it suddenly goes up to $21,000. The same with Ethereum. Ethereum sits at that point at $222. By December, it's up $4,400. An insane growth went on during that window. Okay, it went up 20x. Ethereum went up 20x. So as soon as gold started to fall, Bitcoin goes crazy. From 9K, it goes up like 6x, okay? And then Ethereum goes up like 20x. Insane growth happens. Now, what we then see in this bull market is that gold finishes its bear market around November 2022, which is when the FTX collapse happens, if you remember. Now, what you see from there, gold basically just goes straight up. And right now, as I speak, it is going pretty much vertical. Bitcoin does something very similar, to be honest. Bitcoin has performed very much like gold. Remember, a risk-off asset, a hedge against inflation. Bitcoin and gold have acted very similarly during this period of time. ETH, however, hasn't really kind of broken until very, very recently out of this trend. It has just been in accumulation, okay? It's big and choppy, it's been moving around with lots of volatility, but is acting like a risk asset. Only when we suddenly get tariffs, etc. announced at the start of April back in 2025 do we start to see the macro bigger picture. Ethereum starts to rally on the anticipated rate cuts that will likely come 6 months or so after this. The market is being front run 6 months or so ahead. And what we're seeing right now is gold continuing to rally. Eventually, gold is going to go for a blow off top. I don't know whether that happens today, tomorrow, probably when those rate cuts come. Those rate cuts come, guess what? Bitcoin might sort of sit flat, okay? It might go up a little bit more, but I don't expect it to really do anything particularly crazy. What's really going to get driven by the rate cuts are the risk assets. Bitcoin is no longer behaving much like a risk asset. It's still risky in the bigger terms of things because it's still volatile, but the risk assets are the altcoins. If we get a rate cut, there is a chance that the altcoins just go bananas, which is why I want to stay in the market, okay? I'm willing to sit in the red for another couple of weeks should we get a sell the news event. I'm all right with it because I'm expecting bigger upside to come afterwards. As you can see in the past, gold tops out here, August, and then it goes till when? April the next year. So from August until April the next year. Right now we're in sort of September time. You can see that from August to April the next year, Ethereum basically goes all the way up to the top of the bull market. Okay, it comes back down, yes, and it has another leg up. Okay, that second leg up, but ultimately that first rally is what we're still waiting for. We are right now with gold at all-time highs, okay? We're at gold all-time highs, which is risk off in the market. We're about to look towards risk on. This could mean, it doesn't mean for certain, that the bull market extends out into early 2026. It's been pretty obvious to see. We are in a delayed bull market. It's obviously taken us longer to get to this point than we thought. Something that's caught me out, something that's probably caught a lot of you guys out as well, okay? But ultimately, still got the bull market ahead. This potentially means, it doesn't mean for certain, that we could extend the bull market out into maybe February, maybe March of 2026. Now, do I want to write that in my diary, sell all my crypto in March? No, because I don't really know what happens in the short term, and neither do you. All you really need to pay attention to, and it's probably the easiest thing of all time, is the sentiment. The market sentiment right now is still pretty bad. Many people are still like, well, the crypto is going to go down again over the weekend. This is not sentiment that indicates the top of the bull market. When we start to get into December, if everything is going bananas and you got Paris Hilton buying like $1 million pictures of monkeys, and you've got Eminem doing it and Justin Bieber, he's probably not going to be doing it this time, but other people, you know, aping into the market, then probably it's time to start scaling out, okay? The sentiment is the biggest indicator of where we're going to be. I don't think we have a double top bull market like we did back in Bitcoin, back in the last bull market. I do think we have a blow off top, and it could well finish in and around the end of this year. Remember, smart money is around 6 months ahead in anticipating what's going to happen in the market. This down below, this move on Ethereum is literally pricing in that rate cut that's going to come next week. It doesn't mean that it suddenly sells the news. Okay, that rate cut's still bullish and it still provides longevity to the market for a little bit longer. But ultimately, things are looking very interesting. Obviously, subscribe to the channel, and over the course of this bull market, we will talk more and we will monitor the sentiment. I keep a very close eye on my followers and people in the comment section and across Twitter to understand exactly where we're at. Right now, we're in a middle ground. That's why I'm not selling the news, because we're in a middle ground, people are undecided. Usually it's best to just hang on in the market, in my opinion, of course. Go and do what you want. Obviously, do your own research and understand for yourself. But, this is what I'm prepared to do, because I'm prepared to sit through volatility to see the inevitable upside. But I don't want to be sidelined to miss out on if we get instant upside. Now, if you wish to buy any different altcoins or things like that, then maybe use an exchange that's much lower in terms of fees. I personally use Bitunix, WEEX, and also BloFin for different trading activities. Now, all of these exchanges are listed down below. They all come with their own significant sign-up bonuses. Obviously, if you go and deposit things and buy things, then you get additional money back for being able to trade with and things like that. Now, all of the different altcoins and things I personally cover on this channel, my altcoins I'm personally holding, and ones that I will be adding in the future, you can pick up on these different exchanges. And they come with some of the lowest fees around. Now, if you want to get into some of the smaller cap altcoins that have the opportunity to see bigger upside potentially, then you're not going to find them on Binance, Coinbase, etc. So I highly recommend, if you wish to go and trade altcoins and things, that you sign up down below. Obviously, go and read your own regulations for your own countries, etc. It might not be suitable for some of you. Now, guys, I think we've got a very exciting week ahead. Okay, if we suddenly hit crazy euphoria before that FOMC meeting, I might be a little bit more cautious, but I'll talk about that next week. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you made it this far through, hit the like button. Go down below, leave a comment for me. Even if you don't want to write anything, just leave a full stop. Really, really helps me drive this content out to more people. Hopefully, I'm helping people understand a little bit more about how crypto markets work and how to really get yourself into the 5% of people who actually make money. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you very soon in another video. Bye-bye.